Okay, welcome to the Grow Pair podcast, and today I have got legendary rock star and general all-around nice guy, Mark Haze.
I like how I got that reputation.
welcome to my little slice of paradise.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here. Sure, appreciate it.
You are way too big to be on my podcast. I think I said it to you earlier, so thank you very much.
Yeah,
for
no
coming
problem.
on. I'll definitely be utilizing your fame and whatever else to get myself some followers. Yeah,
Spread the love. Yeah,
spread the love.
Yeah.
We were talking just now, and you said you grew up in this little sort of neck of Belleville,
This
almost.
neighborhood, yeah.
Was it like the Boston side, or?
Yeah, my family and I lived in Boston. My
cool.
my first band was called 12th Avenue, which is the
Right.
street we lived in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually down the road. So we used to rent another office, which is very close to 12. I used to drive past 12th Avenue all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, you could see it from France Conradi Drive, so it was like
yeah,
it's quite
yeah,
common.
yeah.
And everyone who came from here used to say, like, I said, 12th Avenue, is that like, where's that, Fishhook, or is that Boston? I go, no, northern suburbs. Yeah.
Northern suburbs,
So, yeah,
beyond
but
the Boulevard.
When I drove in here, it was insane to look around at some of the neighborhood, the buildings and things like that. Because me and my friends, we would take strolls out here. We would smoke cigarettes and do all sorts of
fun stuff.
unruly
And
things.
you said in this mall.
In this, just outside the mall around the back,
Yeah.
there was a video arcade that we used to go to, and
Fantastic.
we used to play over there. Yeah, take a little walk out. Yeah,
Was that like at the side of the Romans? Then?
yeah, that
that
it's Romans
courtyard.
there now. That's right.
Yeah.
There was a Butler's Pizza there once upon a time as well. So
That makes sense.
it moves around. Everything changes. It changes, but it doesn't change. You know?
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a look. You asked just before we started what we're going to talk about. Absolutely anything.
Cool.
I'd love to just get to know like some of your process. I want to get to know. This is for me great, like because I get to pick people's minds and people that I enjoy and people I look up to,
Right,
and
yeah.
I'm building myself. So that's why I love doing this. And
Cool.
one of the things I've done sound for you before.
What, really?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah. So that was my. If I look at a career, sound was my career for like a long time in my life.
No kidding.
Yeah. So from like 8-9 years old, I think I did my first sound high when I was 9.
Holy cow.
And
Okay.
then bands, I did sound for 363. A bunch of mates and myself did all the stuff in Natal, Peter Maritzburg, Durban, massive shows.
No kidding.
That Durban beachfront stuff as well.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
like some
Where did
stadium
you do
stuff.
sound for me in Cape Town?
Yeah, in Cape Town.
Okay.
Stellenbosch, oddly enough, it was probably, I want to say maybe 8 or 9 years ago. So that
All
kind
right.
of long. I don't know when you did the whole Idols thing.
That was 2011, so that's what, 13 years ago.
So it must have been just after that. Yeah,
Okay.
just after that in some show in Stellenbosch. And I remember it. I don't remember where it was. I remember.
I'm glad you remember it, because I don't remember
I
it.
didn't know who you were at the time.
Yeah.
And then I looked afterwards. I was like, oh man, cool. This is actually like he's a legend, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
You did the runner-up thing.
Bro,
in
at
Idols.
that point, I didn't think I knew who I was. I mean, the Idols thing was such a rush out, and it took a good 3-4 years to level out
Yeah.
at some point. Because that I hate fame. I got no time for it. You know what I
But
mean?
that's a good thing.
It can be a good thing. It can be a real ball ache. And I mean, there are days when it's cool. Like if you've got a cause or something like that,
Yeah.
or you can help out in some sort of way. Then great. Fame's awesome.
Yes.
Yes. And I mean, but I also don't like the fact that if I say this, people are going to listen to me and go, "Okay, cool. Well, Mark uses Yokohama tires on his car. Let's go with that." Like,
Right, yeah.
and then a tire blows out and someone dies, and then I'm the idiot. So,
Yeah. No, it's this anti-influencer. Well, and I hear it from a lot of guys. They're like sure, I have XYZ followers or whatever, but I don't want the responsibility of
No.
saying A, B, and C, and then someone changes their opinion or their view or something.
Yeah, I didn't ask to be a leader. I
Yeah.
don't. That wasn't my role at all. I got into this so that I could make music and sell emotion and sell joy. That's really what I'm about.
Yeah.
But the Idols thing was magnificent because it took me out of a job that I didn't enjoy, a life that I wasn't really certain about, and I was able to use my talent like for
Yes.
what I thought I was born for,
Yeah.
what I hope I am still born for, and ultimately what happens is that fame kind of caught up in that moment. And people got crazy, but people would accost you at the shops, and you're just trying
have you
to.
had that?
Oh yeah, no. When my little boy was born, I mean, people would like lift up the blanket to take a look at him and sort of.
Oh
thing,
no, that's rude.
Yeah, like they own you, sort of.
Yeah,
stuff. And
yeah.
people would, sometimes people get a little bit sozzled, and you're at a gig, and then it's like you've taken 50 photos already. And then at that point, you're kind of like, okay, listen, do you mind if I get going now? It's getting a bit much. And then they'll do things like, hey, man, I voted for you.
Yeah, I just
Come
paid
on.
$150 to see you, bro. You owe me a photo.
Yeah. So, and while I do believe that that's important, and I try to thank everyone who tells me that, like they vote, it still happens, man. 13 years later, people still come and they say, I threw out hundreds, thousands of rands on votes for you. And I mean, that's really, I'm appreciative of it. I am.
Yeah.
I do appreciate it
Yeah.
because, I mean, everything changed after Idols.
And
But
that was
yeah.
all SMS, hey?
Mix It was the company I think involved, and SMS.
Oh, yeah.
SMS was a thing, and then Mix
Yeah.
It was another, kind of like your WhatsApp today sort of thing. Yeah, like the beginning of it. Yeah,
The youngsters will never know.
no, they'll never know the trouble we went through to get to WhatsApp.
It was so cutting edge as well.
Absolutely.
Like
yeah.
I remember looking at it going, wow.
Yeah, it used data. We were like, it uses data? Like,
What?
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like,
How, I mean, we have to. How does this even work?
yeah.
You know, and you can type messages more than 140 characters.
That's insane.
Insane.
You sound old now.
And then all my mates were like, dude, you just got to pick up chicks, man. That's the place. Like, you don't even know if it's a chick.
That's true. Yeah, but that is still the case now. I mean,
Yeah,
and
true.
that problem is has just continued.
Yeah,
it's just not gone away. You
Yeah,
know? You never know.
creepers will creep. Huh?
Yeah, I get messages often. Like, and I don't. My team checks a lot of my messages, but I have access to all of it, so I, peruse them every now and then. And often it's things like, like you're great, and can we come and visit you and whatever. And I'm looking at this going, that's not and there's a good looking girl on the cover, and you think to yourself, that is a big fat man. That is what that is. There's no. He's in his underwear. He's writing.
Yeah.
It's probably not even like gross. It's probably just like trolling for fun.
Yeah.
Like to see if I'll respond, and he can just send a picture to his friends, going, "Look what I got him to do."
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite funny how things have come about.
Well, the guys from one of the radio stations, I want to say it was one of them, like 94.7 or something.
Yeah.
They, I might be very wrong as to which one. It could have been another one, but they messaged guys in the radio guys to see if they would sell them feet pics. And like 3 of the dudes did.
Did it,
Like,
yeah.
They were like, damn right, I'm making money, man.
Yeah.
If someone wants a picture of my foot.
It's all about the coin. Like, just get the coin in. Let's do it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I would go along with that. That's kind of creepy. Right away, I'm getting the freak out session happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So that's it's just funny how the internet's come such a long way. But you know, those shows are still like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And you know what was cool about the year that I was on Idols is that because I could never figure it out. I entered it before. No one knew that. I had gone on, like, what happened is I was in a band called 12th Avenue, and we were touring quite a lot, trying to make a name for ourselves.
Yeah.
And this is around the era of Polka and Lithium, Wonderboom, who you had on the show, I believe. Yeah. So it's around that time, and we've just struck 2 number ones on the radio, and we're starting to make something of ourselves.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where it's like the gigs kind of, they come and they go, and they come and they go, and everyone gets that story of how the industry's in trouble, and like, we're not going to be the way we used to be. And at some point, the band turns and goes like, "You got to enter Idols, man." And I'm going, "Why me?" And they go, "Well, it's for singers." So I was like, "All right, fine." So I voluntarily entered the first time around.
Yes.
Gareth Gates year, the very first Idols.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
When Heinz Winkler won our first one ever, Pop Idol, whatever they called it. Got in the queue, stood there, and I mean, it was a compliment. I was kicked out, but it was a compliment when Dave Thompson looked at me and he said, "He's just far too rock and roll for a show like this." And I was like, "Oh, fucking thanks a lot," But yeah, so out the door, back in the van with the band, back to work. Let's crack on. And back then we were running day jobs and doing this on the side, trying to supplement, trying to get to the point where we're earning enough to drop the day job and then move into it.
It's like trying to draw that line just above poverty, and then you're like, and I'm a full-time musician.
Well, our tours would consist of things like 2-minute noodles if we made a lot of money at the gig. Otherwise, it would be a bottle of chili sauce. Sweet chili sauce would be bought before the tour, and then we go buy like loaves of bread as we could get them, and then it would be like sweet chili sauce on bread. That would be your meal. Certain times at Backpackers, a lot of dudes would be like, "I don't want this, I'm going to throw it away." And we're like, no. We'll take it. Yeah, it's cool. We'll take it. It's like lettuce is about to go off. You chuck that on your bread, like whatever you do. So we'd done the hard touring life. And so Idols was kind of like the way to get out of it, but it didn't work out. Yeah. Then we came back, I think 3-4 years later, they had some variation on the show. So like R&B was coming in and some different styles were coming in, and then the band was like, "You got to do it." However, this time around, I resisted, and then we went on this tour, and as we were coming back to Cape Town from the tour, it was like 3 weeks long. We'd gone everywhere. We'd drifted all the way through to Limpopo and come back down again. It was very far. We hit Durban as well, I remember, and the East Coast and everywhere else. But so we came back down. I'd fallen asleep in the back of the tour bus, with much whiskey in me, and I woke up with sunlight hitting my face and the combi door opening up, and it was like, cheers, thrown out.
Oh, nice. With whiskey throats, and
I was better. I wasn't hungover. I was okay. But I know that the night before we had a couple of drinks, and it was like the drive home. It's not my turn to drive. Great, so I'm going to drink a bit. and they threw me out on the grass, flat on the floor.
Good grief.
Got up, joined the queue. This is like 4 a.m. Joined the queue, dusted myself off, bought a coffee and some water and whatever, and then did the gig. I didn't even make it past that the very first round. Same excuse, like it is too rock and roll for this. I was like, oh, for God's sake. So that was the end of that, and I vowed to never do it again.
Yeah.
The reason I entered South African Idol the third time, people don't know it's the third time, is that I first went to America. The band, our manager had stolen like every cent from us. He had screwed us.
This is a story I hear from so many bands.
I think you have to have it happen to you, otherwise you're not rock and roll enough. That's kind of the rule. Yeah, you need to be a dumbass and like get all your money stolen by your manager. Yeah. It's kind of like well, to be fair, my heroes like the Beatles, Ozzy, all these guys, they all got screwed over. Bon Jovi, same thing, Poison, Motley Crue, every single one of them. Guns N' Roses, I mean, Guns N' Roses, Axl screwed them all over. Somehow he's back with them now, but But those stories, it's just like it's rife because greed is there. Because we live in we work in the environment of party and entertainment. So it's hard to draw the line between like what's raw business and what's not. That's why most of the dudes get addicted to coke at some point. It's just you're ongoing, So I went to America. The band was in turmoil. 12th Avenue was on its way out. It was a dangerous time for us, and a lot of venues didn't want to work with us because of what Moon had done to us. The Moon was our manager's name. So it got.
I think that's the hint, when someone's naming themselves after celestial bodies. Like,
well, I think his full name was Moonsamy. So he's an Indian guy. So Moonsamy was his full name. But Moon's issue was that like he had screwed so many different promoters over as well that they were like, well, we were the first band that he took on as management. Yeah. So the idea was like, you've been with him the longest, you must have known what's going on. So we wanted to prove that we weren't. So we were trying to get this together. So I thought, look, at some point we got to take our sites overseas and see what we can get. And I started chatting with Atlantic Records and Fueled by Ramen, who is Paramore, Panic at the Disco, and Fall Out Boy's record label. Yeah. And it started to go quite well. Then at some point I had to fly up to go and have a meeting with them and try and pitch where we could. They wanted to see what we were like. And the meetings went okay. Atlantic, not so much, but the Atlantic Records one was super corporate. I'll never forget it. I walked in the door and the guy was like, play guitar and sing. And I'm like,
oh no!
It was the most awkward thing I've ever had to do. Did it though, nailed it, I think. But that was like, if everyone thinks that idols is the hardest thing to do, trust me, when you have to sit across as close as you and I are sitting right now, pick your guitar up and sing for someone. I mean, that's not going to happen.
And I mean, so I'm a muso guitarist, sound guy, So like, the second someone knows you've got a guitar or you can sing a little bit, they're like, "I sing a song."
No, that's weird.
Sing a song. And I'm like,
yeah.
No, it's fine.
More than 10 people, no problem. You know what I mean? Like then it's okay. But like sitting across the table from someone else, especially another dude, I'm kind of like,
and there's a guitar in the corner. Like, oh, you play? Oh, do you play something?
I might play a little something and then kind of put it down, but I'll never play like a whole song from beginning to end. It's weird.
No, it's weird. Yeah.
The thing is, my mom and dad used to do that to us all the time when we were kids. If family were over at our house, I don't know if you were like us, but family was over all the time. Every weekend was a family affair. We'd have brides, we'd have like Sunday lunches and that sort of thing. It was always a family thing. And every time I learned something new or did something new, it was like, go fetch the guitar, show everyone how it's done. Yeah. And it's awkward and it's weird and it's like you know them and love them, but it just feels so much harder. But I think it was great training because by the time I got to do it in front of like actual people, strangers, you feel nothing. You don't feel nothing, but you feel like I'm not afraid of you. Yes. Like my uncle's looking at me going like, yeah, it's not quite the way to play. But everyone else like, I don't know you. I don't have to impress you. I'll just do what I got to do. Yeah. And that pays off.
I think it was like my 16th birthday. I had a band way back, and like our big claim to fame is we opened for Tree 63. Awesome. And Rob Warren 33. Like two different shows. And we were like, yeah, we're big. We were
huge. No one can take us now.
No one can take us now. And it was like my 17th birthday or something, and we had like a whole bunch of friends and stuff around, and then they were like, "No, dude, like you guys got to play."
At
my own birthday. Oy. So my Boot and myself both born in August. He played drums and I played guitar, and they were like, "No, you've got so." Like I said, I've been doing sound for Young, so I had all the rig. We had a band room.
we had
everything. Yeah, it was great.
Have that,
so we pulled out pull pull export drum kit,
Ooh.
all the amps and guitars, sound system, everything set up in our front yard, and then played for like 30 of our closest friends.
Imagine that.
The weirdest thing ever.
Yeah. I've done that too. Those things only came about after, that's like the fame shows again. Like someone hires you for it was a competition on KFM, I think it was, and myself and my guitarist Bjorn, we had to go and perform out of a garage for someone's like 21st birthday party. So it's like 50 kids in a cul-de-sac. It was insane.
Yeah.
But the stuff you see in a movie. It's the strangest thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was I saying? So, God, what was I saying? So we go to America. We stop off at Disney World because I'm not going to America for nothing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So my wife and I, we newly married, and we want to go out there. We brought my brother and sister-in-law came along with us, and she's been up my arse the entire time to go and sing on American Idol Experience. And I'm like, I'm tainted with idols. I'm done with idols by this point. I'm like, it's karaoke, it's nonsense. Look at the last few winners, blah blah blah. You can see it's rigged.
But this was what they did at Disney World itself, right?
Yeah,
it was like a part of the whole. Yeah.
Okay. I was never going to do it. I said no. So what happens is we had a good fun at Disney, and we went to Universal and stuff like that. We had great times on the rides and whatever. And then we stopped at this place, and the parade was happening. Yeah. So we couldn't get past the parade. So we went like another way around to get to the rest of the park while the parade was moving in this direction to us. And then around the corner, there's American Idol Experience, and there's nowhere else to go. Yeah. It's at the end of the park. So my family's like, come on, enter it. I mean, you got to understand what a douchebag I look like at this point. I have white camo shorts on.
Yes, okay.
Boy. I had green shoes on. Yeah. And I had a yellow t-shirt on. It was like the least rock and roll thing I could have been wearing. So I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to have some fun. Let's go and do this. Let's screw around and do it. So cocky as I am, I go sing Bohemian Rhapsody from Queen. Full goof. Thinking like, whatever. You guys are all actors. This is not real. But I noticed the guy's like doing a very good job of acting like a complete corporate. And I'm going, that's weird. At the end of it, he says like, I know you were joking around there, but damn, you can hit notes. It was really great. Can you do me a favor when you go into the next round, just sing this song rather, Born to Be Wild. And I go, why are you giving me coaching advice now? Dude, I don't need this. This is just for fun. I'm just going to get my ticket. I'm going to run around. I'm going to take my photo and getting back on the rides. And he's like, do you know who we are? And I said, yeah, Disney. And he says, no, we're from Fremantle. We're the real thing. We're scouts. Wow. We look for people to avoid the queues. Because in America, they got like millions in the queues. Yes. We got hundreds of thousands here, but they got millions in the queue per city. Yeah. So they were like, to avoid that whole standing around for days on end, because these guys like camp out and sleep out.
Like pre-screen.
Yeah, you go straight in, and you don't have to worry about the pre-screening. Yeah. So I thought, that's pretty cool. I said, can I go home and change, whatever? They're like, nah. And they literally grabbed me from there, grabbed me and threw me into the makeup chair and started doing the pre-interviews and all this stuff. So I had a little bit of like an idea of what idols would be like. Yeah. And then I won the whole thing. Oh, wow. It was a shortened experience. It was a day long, but the whole day. Yeah. And then I won, and golden ticket came given to me by hand, and all this like confetti came flying down from the ceiling, and it was like a whole thing. And then a Ryan Seacrest look-alike, and a Randy Jackson actor, like sort of thing, like he gives you the harsh crits and stuff like that. And it was so wonderful. And they beam it out to the whole of Disney World. Oh, wow. So like a couple of million people see you. Yeah. So for the rest of the 4 days that we were there, everyone took photos with me, knew who I was. Yeah. They were like, well done, you were great, loved it, Yeah. So that's where I kind of got.
Can we just stop for a second? Oh yeah, so whole day.
So I spent the whole day, and initially I was thinking to myself, like, I'm wasting my entire Disney trip in this show. But winning it was pretty cool. And when I came back home, they kept in contact with me. Right. And they were saying to me, we should try and find a way to get you back to America to go and do it. And listen, this is before we had like international acts on America's Got Talent and American Idol and stuff like that. Back then, it was kind of frowned upon. And I remember saying it to them. I was saying, you guys are trying to do all these things to wangle a way for me to get back onto your show, whereas I'm South African. And it's going to be hard. People are not going to take well to that, And they eased it in over years, but at that point in time, it was never going to work. So I said, thank you for all the stuff you've tried to do. Leave it at that. And they said, we want to put in a good word at SA Idol. So I said, don't do that. Definitely don't do that, because I'm not entering that show. Like I've been kicked off that show twice, so it's not going to happen. And then one morning, my wife, I don't know, I just woke up with a bee in my bonnet. I happened to see on the internet that it was like happening, some announcement on Facebook or whatever. And I asked my wife, like, what are you doing tomorrow? And she said, no, I've got a whole weekend of like work stuff to do. And I said, okay. And then she said, what are you going to do? So on a whim, I said, I think I'm going to go stand in the queues and see what I come up with. And she said, what are you going to sing? And I said, I have no idea. I'm going to show up with a guitar this time, and I'm going to just stand there and see what happens. Yeah. And honestly, it was made up on the spot. I sang Avril Lavigne, just couldn't get it out of my head.
Yeah.
And I worked out the chords while standing in the queue, and I was kind of like, okay, cool, let's give this a go. Gave it a go, and they said to me like, okay, cool, well, thank you very much for entering, and then we'll call you back tomorrow if you're through to the next round, all that sort of stuff. And then they had found the information on me online. I asked Fremantle, did you get this from American Idol? And they said, no, this we found it online.
Yeah.
And then they asked my permission to get the footage and whatever. So I said, yeah, you can get the footage if you want. And that was it. Now, you realize when it comes to reality TV, if you've got a decent story.
Yes, yeah, the story sells.
Yeah, the hero sort of thing. I tried this twice before. It didn't work out. Went to America, won, and now you guys want to like bring me in. But as the show went by, what I am proud of saying is that like the people that voted for me, they're real.
Yeah,
like there was no wangling of my votes or anything like that. In fact, I fought with idols a lot, and shame, I bless them. They didn't kick me out. They could have so many times. So many times it was like, sing this song, and my answer was no. And they were like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, doing Foo Fighters, and they're going like, you can't do Foo Fighters on TV. So I was like, I can and I will. And they're like, you're going to get voted off, and I'm going, duh, that's the point of the show. So if I can't be me. What's the point? You know? And I did it, and they now we know, older and wiser, that they influenced what the judges would say and stuff like that. Now I see it looking back at the footage, which I haven't looked at in a while, but someone showed it to me not long ago. You can see that they're kind of pushing the show down a certain direction. And it's okay. But that's the great thing about mine is that, and I remember being told this by one of the crew members, like, you really threw our whole plan off. And I thought to myself at the time, like, what's that supposed to mean? And I think it means that the real people came out to vote for a real artist, and went, and the reason I'm here is because of that. So,
but a lot of it's curated. I think, like,
extremely.
I know, if I add you, 6 people that have gotten into top 5 in various idols. And every conversation that I've had with the guys and girls that have done it have been like, these oaks are wangling it.
We have
like,
to.
They're wangling it massively. I've had some of them say like, no, they chosen their winner, kind of thing, and they were angling everything. So it's like, this worked for me on this week. Next week, now another person's doing the thing that worked for me, and show business. I don't know.
Well, I gotta say, like, for me, I don't hold any anger or anything towards it, because it's it's not really a talent show. You realize very early on that it's a TV show about a talent show, and that's what the television company has to sell. And I get that. I'm just very lucky that I kind of made my way through it. It's not an accident. A lot of the winners disappear into obscurity. You don't hear about them ever again. I mean, it's not like we're untouchable, just because you've been on a show and you like. And I think that's what happens to a lot of the winners. They tend to think that they're hardcore now, so they don't want to go play like a small little prize giving somewhere, or a person's house party or whatever. Whereas I'll go play anyway. I got no shame. I'll play it now if you want me to. Like,
but those little gigs is what you don't know who's sitting there. So you go and you play a 21st birthday party or whatever else. And I mean, I pitched up at a 60th a while back, and just mates of mine invited me. I think it was my boss's wife or something. End up finding out that there were 2 billionaires in the room. You don't know. You can't see them.
True.
And next thing, that oak is like, oh, that Mark played, eh? Damn, he was good. Okay, well, we've got our year-end function for 1,000 of our staff. Hey, let's pay the guy 150 grand to come and whatever the number is.
Well, if you know those people, I'll gladly take their call. Let's go with a little 150K.
I mean, look, I'm just, always...
I'll throw you a discount for a 150K gig. Let's go.
Give you 10% off.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. But at the same time, that's the business way of looking at it. Now, the older I get, and the more I have been doing this now full time, because obviously when Idols happened and I got the recording contract, I left my job, and I had a great job. I was a managing director of a software firm.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's not like I had lots of staff underneath me. It was an international company. We traveled all the time. I had a lot of expense accounts and things like that. It was well taken care of. Thanks to that, I was able to, with my wife, put a deposit down on a house at a very young age. Things that like a lot of people don't get to do early on. So those sort of things happened, and I'm very blessed for that to have happened. But then when I got the deal, I threw that away. And it's good money sometimes, and it's bad money sometimes. Sometimes it's really, when it's bad, it's really bad. So you end up doing some of those gigs because of a pride factor, as meaning you want to throw the pride out of the door and just earn enough money to like feed your kids. But at the same time, the older I get, what I'm realizing is that my job is to sell joy. That doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't come with parameters in the sense of, it comes with some parameters, but it doesn't come with the parameters in the sense of like, there has to be more than 100 people there for it to be worth my while to play. if it's a cool gig and it makes sense, it's fine. And my role has developed so much now over the years that now I'm what are all the things that I do now? So there's Mark Haze, that we all know and hopefully love, and then there's me doing session guitar work for people, session backing vocals on albums, and that developed into me working in the studio. COVID was like horrible but cool at the same time. I learned how to do mixing. I was always the sort of producer that would kind of like, I produced, but I never like shared it. The inner circle knew about it, and the word would spread, and they'd say, if you can get Mark to produce your album, he knows what he's talking about, but he knows nothing about engineering. So I'd be able to talk to the engineer and tell them what I hear, because my ears are really good, and I'd be able to communicate the difference between the band and the engineer, so that they would understand each other. Because
you can speak geek to the engineer, and you can speak band. Yeah.
Well, some geek I could at least speak like geekanese, you know, like close to it. So like saying like there's too much toppiness in it, so you trebles the issue, but I can't tell you which frequency it is, and I can't say if it's 3K or 2K or whatever it's gonna be. So
most sound guys can't either.
The ones in studio, they can. Yeah,
there's some of them. They also rely a lot on their tech.
Oh, absolutely.
So like, these also got all these spectrographic graphs, and they're going, I see 3K. Well, I hear 3K, but they're seeing it.
Yes, yeah.
old sound guy trick. You always gotta have a little.
Yeah, and you never really know if you're being taken advantage of in those situations.
No, fair.
So now COVID happens. I started working on it myself, and now I actually know how that system works.
Yeah.
So now I'm a producer. So now we put it out there that I'm a producer as well. So it's not just like hiding it away. It's part of the whole thing. Is that's what I do, and I've gotten a chance to work with. Like I had my choice in the sense of, as in, I wasn't trying to pitch out to big acts saying like, hey, let me step in and record your world famous album or the next big Grammy award or whatever. I'd rather work with young ones, because it's a case of like me not knowing what was going on when I was younger, or me not understanding like the recording process. When you get into the studio and you're so intimidated by what's going on around you, I'd rather bring people into a smaller room, let them work with me at a lower rate, because that like daily thing that used to get us, it's only like $300 a day. You're like, cool. Next thing you know, you're like 4 months in, and you're like, oh wait, that's a couple of 10,000, 40,000, 50,000, and now you're going like, we can't afford that. We can be eating bread with the sweet chili sauce. You know what I mean? Like that's all we got. So I get that whole thing, and also I believe that when you start putting a money tag on a daily rate, it takes the creativity out of things. And it's had a tough one to balance. Well, I've had it both ways. I've had a record label pay outright. They're like, whatever it's going to cost, go and make the greatest album you can. And then at some point you let go and you do whatever, and then eventually like it comes out and you realize you were a bit too slack in that moment. And then you get the record label going like, okay, well, we've got this much budget, you cannot go over 10 days, you got to work this out. And then you find yourself under immense pressure. Someone like me can handle that, but some other artists don't handle that very well. So I like to put out the idea of like, okay, well, let's just work with a flat rate. We agree on something. It's not going to break your bank account, or you want to pay it over installments or whatever. Like let's work out a rate, and then the business is out of the way. Let's be creative now. Let's make music, cool. And then that's how we do it. And I like to work with new artists. That's why I've done collaborations with Cat. Cat came out about 2 years ago. Daniel J. Dunn was the last project I worked on. Seth Court before him. These are all unknown artists, and now they're kind of breaking ground and doing certain things. Cat's worked with me the longest. We've got a new single coming out again now. The music video is busy being treated in that, and then the single should be coming out within this year still, I imagine. And it's been so busy, like I can't even like make my own music. Yes. The record label pulled me in for a meeting the other day, and they're going like, "Where's this album that you promised us in March?" And it's bad because fans shout at me a lot. Like shout at me a lot. Yeah. Like, where's the album? Where's the album? We're waiting for it. Whereas you brought out 2 singles, the third one's about to come out. Where's the album? And I'm like, I'll get to it. But when the record label calls you in and they do that slap for the rest, and you're like, oh, crikey, I better get it out, So it's a D.
But then you put the album out, and then you get all the people like, oh, you've changed, like
that whole thing. I couldn't give a crap about, to be honest with you. Yeah. Like I've done such a big change before that now with me coming back to owning the rock thing again. It's like it feels comfortable. I've gone down a different road. I've proven what I can and can't do, and I've come back to it, and that's that. I never really left the rock thing though, and a lot of people are very sensitive about that. So I think at some point, just before we did Authentic was the last album, and the reason I called it Authentic was because I finally moved away from anyone telling me what I can and can't do and what style we need to try out, and this is the new wave sound now, and do this, and let's add it to the songs, and which we did. Sure. And the singles just didn't pull as well. I picked up a slightly different audience at one point, but they still went and listened to the other albums and went like, well, this is actually what I prefer you doing. And it just opened the door, I think, more from a production point of view, where people believe, like, if I say to you, I know how to do EDM, I know how to do EDM.
Yeah.
If I'm working with a client and they're like, they really want to go down like a hip hop road, I can show them what I've done and they believe me, you know. So that's kind of where that worked out. But when I went back to the Authentic album, it was more a case of like, I want to release this, and those sounds and effects, they were still in there. I had many different R&B sounds and effects and things like that, and some sweeps and things like that. It only happened in dance and techno music, and stuff like that, because I felt like it, because I wanted to, not because a producer was telling me to do it.
Yeah, there's a big difference if it's coming from the creative side, as opposed to a tick box.
Yes,
there's a big difference.
The worst thing that someone could tell me is, this is what's cool now. Do that now, and I'm like, I could not care what's cool now.
No, but by the time you finish recording,
my beard, you see what I wear. I don't wear what's in now.
Yeah,
I don't think I ever have. I have. This is how I think I've looked this way since I left school.
Yeah,
you know, like
I looked through a couple of photographs and stuff, and it was like, your style is consistent.
But this is what I like to wear. I think I pull it off.
Yeah.
I've tried different ways. I mean, I once came home and shaved my beard in the middle of the night and went to sleep. And when I woke up the next morning, my wife screamed bloody murder when she saw me.
Yeah, I had exactly the same experience. My wife was just like, no, I feel like I'm cheating on you.
Yeah,
no, who are you? Yeah. No, sorry.
Yeah, she barely looked at me for about 2 weeks and threw it back.
Yeah,
and
same.
That was about it,
yeah.
So I know what works and what doesn't work, and that sort of thing for me.
Yeah,
yeah, it is what it is. I think for it's never really been about fashion and style for the sort of stuff I do. You know, I think it's more a case of like the authenticity in terms of like what I'm singing about. And from a maturity point of view, shall we say, you know, like as you get older, you write about what you write what you know.
Yes.
I'm not writing about like the parties and stuff anymore. I'm not writing about like hitting the road and that sort of thing. I'm writing more about like life now. I'm writing more about kids and writing more about like experiences and stuff like that. And I think age, death, that's very prevalent in what goes on now. Like suddenly people are dying, and it's something you didn't know about before, unless you were in that environment, which I never was. You know, so songwriting is still.
You're in your early 40s, right?
I'm 40 now. Yeah.
So I'm the same. I think I'm a year younger than you.
Okay.
Yeah. I was 83. You're 82.
I'm 82.
Yeah. 82. So but it's like, and now all of a sudden people are dying. I mean, like my dad passed away a year ago.
Same.
Like, cancer got him, and I was like,
oh yeah, same.
Oh, that was 20 years early. Okay. You know, kind
Weird.
of. Yeah, it's
changes you a lot,
big time.
And it's funny that I know. For example, I mean, I wrote a song called "A Star Child," which was about a friend of mine, Kira, who passed away, but she was young. She was like 30-something, 31, 32 when she died. And it was a huge shock to the system, and the shock threw me into writing. Right away. I think I wrote the chorus for it before her funeral even took place, and then I filled in the gaps and everything else. And then the song was released about 2-3 months after she had actually passed away. So it was a quick run. But my father, who you'd think would have who definitely had much more influence on me and that sort of thing, I haven't written anything about his death, not yet, nothing at all. Which is quite weird, you know, and it takes a bit more time to stew, I think, or whether I want to write about it or not is another story. And
I get that. Like I think I had a similar thing. Like my dad, massive influence, and I had a good dad, which is rare nowadays. I think it's odd. It's like you talk about, you're like, no, I had a good dad.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And
I get that look.
But it's interesting. I mean, like I spoke at his funeral, and that's about all that I've done.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, I mean, I've written songs and stuff through my life. Like every now and again, I'll pick the guitar up and I'll write something. And don't put it out or anything, but like it's just okay, cool. Haven't done squat, haven't done anything, haven't thought about it even really.
Yeah, I also think like my dad would probably think it's cheeseball. You know, it's right. Yeah. He didn't want attention. It's the sort of guy. Like, I don't know if your dad was the same as mine, but he didn't want attention.
Yeah, no, my buddy was that quiet oak. Same. Yeah, that quiet legend. Yeah. You know, they're just like
happy for me to do the talking. Really, you know what I mean? That's kind of like where it was at. Yeah. So I don't know if he'd be keen on me writing a song about him or anything like that. He was more. I mean, I used a phrase in one of my songs, a song called "All Roads Lead to Hollywood," and it's something my mom actually said at the dinner table one day, where my brother and I were arguing, and she just did that typical mom thing, which is like, "Shut up, eat your food. All roads lead to Hollywood. It'll be okay." And I was like, "All roads lead to Hollywood. Like all roads lead to Mecca," you know?
Yes, yeah.
So I was like, "All roads lead to Hollywood."
That's a rock song.
So great. And in the song, I used the phrase, "My mama said all roads lead. Mama says, "Close your eyes, boy. Just believe all roads lead to Hollywood."
Yeah.
And my dad was really chuffed that I mentioned my mom in a song, but like my mom.
Yeah.
And I think that's enough. I don't think he wanted a song at all. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, can't write songs about heroes. It's just it's weird. Doesn't
it is weird. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Every now and again, you end up talking about your dad or whatever it is, and it feels weird sometimes. Like it's like I remember, and I look, Facebook's great because like it always pops those memories up.
Oh yeah.
So like for a long time, I like put stuff onto Facebook, and then like it pops up like, oh hey, we did this, we did that, and it's like, hey, cool memories,
Yeah, for me, it's the Facebook thing is not something I work on that thing all the time. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that. I gotta. It's not. It's not
I work on it now. Yeah. I don't do anything personal.
It's not fun for me to be on there. If you want to watch great TikToks, go watch Bjorn Groenewold, my bass guitar player. He's got I don't know 100,000, 1 million followers, a couple of followers. Yeah, he's got so many followers. Yeah, it's a lot, and he does great jokes and great little videos and things like that. That I like to watch for fun because that's my main.
Yes, yeah.
But as far as spending time on there, I don't want to do it. My dad was big into racing cars and stuff like that, and he used to race when he was younger. So cool. the thing that hit me the most was going to the monster trucks when they came here, about 4 or 5 months after he died. And any racing event or anything to do with cars, I would always like instantly whip out my phone and take videos, and then send it off to him. Like that. Obviously, the next morning you wake up and you're like, cool, let's send it to dad so he can see. And the next morning when I woke up, he was gone. He's not there, So it's like, what did I take these videos for? Oh, wow, now that like, it really hits you.
Yeah.
And even then, I didn't write a song. It's crazy. Yeah. Don't know why. Yeah. Not too sure what the whole thing. But I think with
if your dad was involved with all the racing, you would have known my family. So like my family's been from the beginning of racing in South Africa, pretty much. Yeah. So we've got like 2 Western Province champs. And,
no kidding.
Yeah. So my uncle and my cousin were both Western Province champs. I think my nephew's a Western Province champ now as well.
Wow.
So like heavy racing. Look at their own pit there at the race course and all that.
I'm pretty sure they must have known my pops. Yeah. No way.
Wally Dolenchek. They're all called Walter. So okay. Wallies,
No, look, I can't ask.
I can't ask. I'd put good money on it because
my mom might remember. She's pretty good with names and things like that. But I guarantee. Yeah, he used to race in the Clubman series, so it's like.
Then they 110%.
You're talking like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah,
like
110%. They definitely Because I think my uncle's had a pit at the racetrack for probably as long as I've been alive.
Okay.
Kind of
then
like,
they must know each other.
Forever,
Hectic,
Jeez. Small world.
So they say,
So you've spoken a bit about your process. I love peppering musos about their songwriting process.
Oh, my process? I don't have a process.
And that's the answer that I normally get. I'm waiting. One day someone's going to say to me like, okay, so I get up and I do this and I do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Desmond. I've got the ability to utilize all processes.
That's cool.
Processes, how do you say processes or whatever it is. Yeah. I have had to work in every single type of songwriting environment. So let's put it this way. So like in the early days, like when you said, you mentioned General, nice guy. And as you said the word General, I had this like flashback. I thought you were going to call me General Haze because that's what my band used to call me. He even bought me a jacket that says General Haze, like an army jacket, old army jacket.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's because I was a drill sergeant. I would like hammer it into them. When I left high school, I'd gotten to my grade 7. I was about to complete my grade 8, and I just didn't want to do my masters in music because I didn't want to become a teacher. So my music knowledge was just that much higher up than the guys I was working with at the time in 12A, and but their ears were good. So that's kind of what a lot of people come up to me and they go like, "Oh, you'll never meet my son. He's amazing. You learned how to play by ear." And I'm like, "That's actually the way to learn."
Yeah.
When you teach a kid to speak because music is a language.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, if you've seen this great movie called Amadeus, which is about Mozart, where he'll pick up a piece of music notation and he can hear it in his head. And I'm not that quite proficient at it, but I can kind of figure out where it's going from there. Rhythmically, I've got no problem with it, but listening, hearing it in my head is a bit difficult. But I can play it as I read it. That works for me. But when you teach a kid to speak, you first teach them how to speak with sound by hearing you, and they copy your vowels, they copy what you do, and then you teach them to read afterwards. And that's literally how music should be, in my opinion. I believe that's the easiest way to do it. Because when you look at kids learning from and I know because I've got kids doing it now, where they learn from notation onwards. Sometimes to me it feels like a little bit of stifle. Now I don't mind if they get like a little bit of insight into how the notes work, and then they move on to jamming around. So my son and I got to play on stage with him. He's 10, 2 weekends ago at his little school concert, and I had a Friday night off, a very rare Friday night off, and his college asked if I would come and play with him. So I was like, yeah, let's go do it, And it was wonderful. We played "Come Together" from the Beatles, which is fairly tricky for a 10-year-old to play on drums. It's only his first year on drums, No, he's middle of his second year on drums now. But still, not easy to do.
No, not easy.
But the thing is, what separates him from a lot of other kids his age is that he's playing with feeling, because he's playing by what he's listening to. He's listening to what the singer's doing, the guitarist is doing, and all that. And I don't tell him that sort of stuff. I just say to him stuff like, just listen for it.
Yeah.
Do what you think is right from your ear's point of view, and then we'll see where you end up. So that was the first time we worked together, shall we call it that. Hopefully not the last, because that was a lot of fun. A real bonding experience.
Yes,
But so I've had to work on the ear thing for so many years. And then I've had to try and explain to non-studied musicians like why that won't work or why this has to work. And eventually it gets to that point where I think I became a drill sergeant, and I was like, that's not the right way to do it. We'll do it like this from now on. And you bring me this and you tell me whatever. But because of that, then you start meeting like some other songwriters. So our management at the time would put us in touch with different people, and we'd write with different people. And then they'd come, and like Bjorn would come to me and say, I've got this melody, but I have no idea what to do with it. What do you think? And he'd write like 15 different riffs. And, a little while back, I kind of discovered that like what the riff made me feel like. And if it made me feel like that, then I would take that situation and I would emotionally, and I would attach it to where I felt like that in another situation that has lyrical abundance to it, and I can write some sort of feeling in that around it. It doesn't always work, which is why I can't be just that sort of songwriter. So then I started writing things like poetry, and then friends who come to me with lyrics, and then I'll kind of listen to what I'm feeling. Like, how angry are you when you're writing this? Are you sad? Are you elated? Like, what's going on? And then I kind of find like major chords to work with the elation stuff, or like happier things or pounding things, and then go from there and work from there. And then, when we were recording our first album, Theo Kraus was my producer at Belleville Studios from the Springbok Noodles. Yeah. And we were sitting there one day, and he said to me, like, look, don't you want to just sing on this other track? It was for a TV ad. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I paid a bit of bucks. It was pretty awesome. And then he came, like, the next time he called me for something else, because I happened to be in the room. He goes like, I'm just struggling with this thing over here. So you end up writing via necessity, because you got to get it to the ad company within the next 20 minutes. Yeah. They need to hear something now, and they've given you a list of criteria to put it to. So yeah, I've gone in, I've critted things. I've had full songs presented to me, and actually looked at a band, and this is the tough part, and going like, don't you think it would be, why don't you try taking that chorus and shortening it by that much, and taking that half and putting it like a jigsaw puzzle and shifting it around. And so I've had to really do.
But this is everything. The producer role, right?
That's how I became a producer. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was just being a dick a lot of the time, and to be honest, I was being told, like, you're such a dick. Just let the song be the song. Like, stop interfering.
Yeah, stop interfering with our creativity.
It's a rough situation to be in. Although what's nice is, I'm now working with Jackson Colt from Johannesburg, and you guys got to check him out. He's got big bushy hair, and he's got a bandana on, and he's like a cutout from the 80s. He's a killer guitarist.
I always wanted an afro.
He doesn't have an afro.
Even big bushy. My wife's got this great curly hair, awesome. And I love it. She can tease it up. It gets really big, and I'm so jealous. But as you can see, it's not really my
hair impaired. Is what we call you now.
Yeah, no, it stopped growing up. It just started growing down.
I've got to say, like every year goes by, and like I look in the mirror, and I'm like, it's still there.
Yeah,
and like hasn't gone away. Yeah, no, I think I would look terrible without hair. I got to say, I did shave it when I was younger, obviously, and like I got a mango head, so like it's not the most pleasing of fruits, shall we call it? So at least your head shape is good. You're good.
I've been told. I was blessed.
Yeah, no, I don't have. I got like lumps everywhere and like scars from falling as a kid and all that. So it's not going to work for me. Yeah, but the producer thing just fell into my lap. The COVID is horrible. We talk about it, but so many enlightened moments came out of that time.
So many people came out with crazy new skills and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I went stupid in COVID. I was locked in a 2-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor of a building.
Wow.
And I'm an extrovert.
Yes.
I need people.
Yeah.
And for like 6-8 weeks, the only people I got to see was a Pick and Pay, behind a mask, and I climbed the walls. I did all sorts of crazy, weird stuff.
I remember jogging around the house. We baked every bloody day. We baked something.
I took a 2 kg bag of rice, emptied it out on my dining room table, and counted it.
You've got to be kidding.
17 hours.
Holy cow, dude.
77,300 and something grains of rice inside a 2 kg bag.
Oh, that is officially the coolest story I've ever said.
It got like a sum total of 64 views on YouTube.
Holy cow.
I recorded the whole thing.
Hopefully people can check it out now.
I took it all off. I was like, I got to a point where I was like, no, this is just stupid.
It's a little insane.
Got rid of the whole lot.
But some of the stuff we did then was just like, you realize the human race is like, we're still cave people, man. We don't know what we're doing.
I watched a pot boil just to prove the saying wrong. Oh, that was the very first.
Wash pot never boils.
Yeah, wash pot never boils, and all that kind of crazy stuff. Yeah. But in that moment, I learned a lot of, and I figured out, I can edit. So what I'm doing here now, I learned that in COVID.
Okay, cool.
You know, like I figured lighting out. I could only record at certain times of day because I didn't have any lighting, but my lounge window gave lighting. So I figured lighting out, you know, like, and that was like, okay, cool. I have to wait till the sun's in a certain time. And I was like, okay, between this time and this time, we're recording, you know, and then, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, COVID was great.
The desperation was there.
Yeah, the desperation for sure.
Yeah, it's difficult now. I mean, I was pulling illegal crap the entire time. I was definitely like driving in the middle of the night. My sound engineer lives down the road, so
yes.
It was like we would just wait for the curfew to be like in action, and then wait 2-3 hours in. So because you could sleep sometime in the day, so I'd sleep for some of the day and then wake up and be like, all right, cool, we're going to yours, and then we'd spend like from 11 p.m. until about 4 a.m. tracking and recording. And making something and learning how like the studio system works. I had no clue. And he would like coach me and show me. And we made an entire cover album called Why Not? Nice. And that was the discussion. The record label was like, what are you doing this for? I was like, I don't know. Why not? And they're like, great name. And I was like, oh, that's the name. Okay, that's the name. And then we did it. We're doing another one now soon called Why Not Volume 2. You know, very artistic. Now it's the Unplugged session. So because I had such success with that little throwaway album, COVID sessions, I've got an acoustic one that I'm going to do now as well. Because I started putting together acoustic looping shows because when we were allowed to play for 50 people, I was able to finally get out there.
Yeah.
And everyone, I'm not going to mention the names of the various artists, but huge artists were calling me going, what the hell are you doing? Why are you performing? Wait until things get bigger. And I was like, guys, if we don't do something now, this industry is going to fall flat in its face.
Yeah.
We lost almost every major club we had.
Yeah.
You talk to kids now about like, we go to the club to watch a band. They don't do that. What club? There is no club.
Yeah.
I don't know of any clubs that have bands in them anymore. I go play restaurants now and theaters and stuff like that. And it's very cool. It's crossover arenas. One thing about the music industry, we are relentless. You won't just like shut us down. That's not going to happen to us. I mean, the Facebook live sessions during COVID were painfully awful, but yet people kept going, and the fans were great. Some of them donated where they could, did with and it's still going. And I mean, I try to thank people even now. It's only 2 years later that we've been like
I mean, like the end in big inverted commas was kind of end of 2022. It was kind of back to normal.
Yeah, because we got shut down again at one point. It was like another cool down, and then
I was kind of lucky. I was working for a company that was semi-essential. Okay. And we revolted at work. We were like 6 weeks off, sitting at home twiddling our thumbs. And all of us just got together after we all did like outbound sales. Okay. And a bunch of us phoned all the sales guys and the sales manager and I think the marketing manager as well. We all sent emails to the boss and we were like, we're going to work on Monday.
Okay.
With your vehicles.
I've heard a few stories like that.
With your vehicles, so get the paperwork. Yeah. I'm driving. And it was, and to his credit, he was like, cool, you got all the licenses.
Mine was not so lucky. I had my name on the side of the van and everything. I mean,
dude, I had a massive van with branding on the side. And I went in a week through like 47 roadblocks.
Hectic.
Yeah. I got searched. I got like all sorts, but I drove. As soon as I had that piece of paper, I was like, I'm seeing every client I can. You're not stopping me.
I had no piece of paper. I had nothing. Not a damn thing. Vimpy at Book Radio, he saved a lot of our asses as well. Like he put together a show called the Biltong Sessions because I didn't want to do. See, I didn't want to be precious about this. Like I say, I'll perform anywhere and for anyone and that sort of thing. But something about the Facebook live sessions made me upset because it humanized us ever so slightly. I mean, here I am, flesh and blood. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's something about the show that needs to still be there.
Yeah.
So at least with the Biltong Sessions, I had the ability to kit out my garage and put the PA system up and put like lights up and stuff like that and make it look like a kind of a performance, which is why I did so well on those shows.
Yeah.
But he gave the stage and the broadcast together. And then, he put that talk show together where I was kind of part of the little band that would make the songs up. And that's where my looping stuff all began. Where we'd make up like versions of these songs all acoustically and stuff like that. So he kept us quite fairly busy and it kept me in the spotlight, as it were, or at least on people's mouths, so that when the doors opened up again, I was asked to play, but the crowds weren't very big. There was like 50 people max and that sort of thing. And that's when the backlash started to occur within the industry. Yeah. But I'm still stoked I did it. And I'm so busy now. Like, it's crazy how busy I am.
I looked at your upcoming lineup. It's like your cover on Facebook.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
It doesn't get smaller. It keeps getting bigger. I'm very, very happy about that. I mean, we're working very, very hard at it. I try to say, look, with COVID, it was a lot of solo shows that were coming up.
Yeah.
And now I think the crossover is that the band shows are able to happen again. So I promised the guys in the band that we would do more of these.
Yes.
And I'm delivering on that promise now. We are doing tons of shows. The tribute stuff that we do has also kept it like immensely busy.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to ask you about that because you seem to be a big Queen and what was the other one?
Queen, Bon Jovi, and another show called Masters of Rock.
Yeah, Bon Jovi, that was the other one. Yeah,
they came about by accident. The Bon Jovi show actually happened long before COVID. That was a fun gig. Like, friends of mine put it together and asked me to sing in it, which I did. And then they were like, "Cool, that was fun. We're done." And then a tribute. The Hillcrest Quarry used to have this tribute festival every year. And where they were said, like, would you bring the band and go do it for that? So I said to them, okay, let's just keep it together for that. And so even after my Idols contract, I came through and I played the show with them. The place was packed to the nines. It was great. And then it kind of fizzled off. And then I said, look, what I want to do is, like, if a corporate asks for the show, or can I use it? And they said, yeah, absolutely. Use your own band around it. We were using my guitarist at the time anyway. So it was very simple because the two main guys, Richie and John, and I was like me and Jock, doing it. So it worked out fine. And then what happened is, between my first album and my second album, you're busy waiting for the mastering to take place and the final mixes to take place. And the label wants you to sit down and chill. And I hate sitting down and chilling. So I said, like, I really want to go on a feeling. And they said, we're going to send you on a tour when your new album comes out. Don't go touring now. That's stupid. So I said, well, what if we just played like other people's songs, like some covers and stuff?
Yeah.
So they said, yeah, but you got to stick to kind of local. So I said, yeah, I'll keep it in Cape Town and just mess around. Man, and it's played so many corporates, it's gone crazy, and everyone loves it. And then I would do a first set of Bon Jovi, and then a second set of like my favorite covers based on this true story of my record collection growing up, and how I called it the Masters of Rock, like as in like masterclass and rock and roll, and how I learned it, because it really is an uncanny story of like every time I wanted to learn something, I would happen to be blessed and pick out the exact album I needed for that moment. So the first album I ever picked out of that box was a Beatles album. So I mean, that's really where you want to start, like the beginning of rock and roll, and learn how to do it.
Also, they only knew like 4 chords, so it makes it easy.
Yeah,
or easier.
Yeah. And it just progresses from there. It goes through Led Zeppelin to Deep Purple, and it just carries on going up to Guns N' Roses, Springsteen, stuff like that. So that's how that second set developed. And then eventually people would say stuff like, well, we want a full Bon Jovi set. So I was like, well, this is just a goof. And my agents were saying to me, like, it's not really a goof. Hundreds of people are showing up to see this, and you sound pretty good. So why not just turn it into an actual show? So I said, all right, let's commit. So we put the show together, the lighting and the coordinated, and I put it to the wayside. And when it gets asked for, I do it. And if it doesn't get asked for, I don't do it. And the Masters of Rock became a show on its own as well, because when I spoke through the playwright with the band, we realized there's about 16, 17 stories that I'm not telling because I'm only keeping it to like 5, 6 songs. And so they said, no, make it a full show as well. There's another show that's about to happen sometime soon called Soul. And Soul is about the other half of that collection, which is not the rock stuff, which is all the R&B stuff I listen to, So the Motown records, Jackson 5, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, the Temptations, that sort of thing. So, which is actually, people don't know this, but that's actually how my screamy, yelly sort of voice came from.
Okay,
it's
that
not
makes sense.
Really. It's some influence from the rock side, but it's mostly from guys like Ray Charles, Smokey Robinson, that sort of thing. Where you can get that the Howling Wolf, Muddy Waters, that sort of thing. That's where you get the gruff, the whiskey and cigarettes sort of sound, and the razor blades. That's sort of like that thing. So that's the next show that we're working on. I'm working on a Toto show with a friend of mine as well.
Oh, cool.
So it's reached the point where it's like my original stuff does well, and I'm happy to do it, but like, I think Dad's death also had a lot to play with it, because it's kind of like you never know when you're going to go.
Yeah.
You get told that from little. You never know when your last day is going to be, that sort of thing. But I think when your father goes, then you're kind of like, okay, well, he's 40 years older than me, 30 years older than me, whatever it is. So like, this is going to be, I mean, you blink your eyes.
Now you're counting it. You're going, okay, hold on. If I spend the next 10 years, whoa, that's a quarter of what I've maybe got. Okay.
And I had an angry, we're not even going to call it a fan, just an angry dickhead came to me one time, and he was like, why all the tributes? Like, where's the original music? So I was like, it's all there, man. Yeah. If you care to look a little further than your nose, go listen to it. It's all on Spotify and Apple and wherever else.
Yeah. Click a little bit. Yeah.
You cannot miss the original stuff. It's everywhere. And it's still selling. And to everyone who downloads and everyone who streams, thank you. You keep my life going, my royalties going. So it's what keeps me alive. But why I do the tribute shows? Because I want to. And no one's going to tell me not to. For years, people have been saying, like, why do you want to play a cover? Why do you want to do this? Whatever. Because I want to. Yeah. And when I do it, people like it. Yeah. And if you don't like it, then don't come to the gig. Yeah. You know what I mean? Shut up.
It's not like someone's forcing you to be there.
No one's forcing you.
You have to actually pay to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when people comment on Facebook as well, they forget, like, you get these, like, are they called keyboard warriors? Trolls, things like that. Yeah. They're afraid, like, they can say what they can say behind the thing. But, like, listen, let me tell you now, like, I'm not afraid to tell you to your face.
Yes. It's that same guy that was on Mix It.
That dude, that guy, the troll behind the chair, So, when I say, like, this is why I'm doing it, it's just because I don't know, I feel like it. I think it works. The songs they mean a lot to me. Yes. So I feel like it means a lot to a lot of people, and that's why people are coming to the shows. Yeah. It's cool. Don't worry, the original stuff's coming out again. We're actually working on the new album right now.
Nice. You heard it here first, folks. No.
It's being worked on. I've been telling people it's going to be done for the longest time. Yeah. But my calendar is just that full. And the thing is, recording music is awesome, and it's a big part of my life. Yeah. But there are new artists that come all the time, and that's why I commit my time to them to make sure they've got something to release. Because I do believe that at some point you've got to leave a legacy. And my legacy is not like, look how great Mark Haze was. Yeah. My legacy is that they don't even need to know my name, but there are songs out there that matter to people. Yeah. And I maybe had something to do with that. No one knows. Yeah. God knows. Yeah. I don't, and I know, but, like, that's all that needs to happen.
You look at like Dave Grohl. Yeah. That guy has had his finger in every single rock pie that there has been. Yeah. And I got a mate of mine, Ryan in Oz, and he's a massive fan, so he, like, tracks it, and he's like, there, and he worked with Linkin Park, and did you know the Reanimation was produced here, and this and that, and he's like, and this band and that band, and that song there was written here, and he added that in. I'm like, whoa, hold on, this guy, a drummer from a stoned out band back in the day, and then Foo Fighters crying in a bucket.
I think that's why him and Paul McCartney get on so well, because I've got this book at home. It's the recording sessions of the Beatles. A lot of people don't know this, but, like, when we tracked on tape back in the day, you had to physically write in the timestamp and that sort of thing. Yeah. When someone came to the studio with no computers, so you would write in the time that they arrived, and billable hours, things like that. Production notes had to be written in all by hand, by pencil most of the time. And this great book, it's about, I think it's like a bit bigger than an A4, so call it A3 or whatever it is, big book, and very, very thick. So it's the production notes photostated into a book of the Beatles. And it's Abbey Road. So how many times they also put in, which is very cool, the notes from when Paul visited someone else in Studio B or C.
Oh, that's cool.
Or 2 or 3, whatever the numbers of the studio are. And assisted with, like, a lyric or two, melody line, and that sort of thing. And I think, if I remember correctly, they've digitized it now. So you can actually go online and hear the recordings of him, like, laying down something. And then he doesn't even ask for a credit on it, but it's written in the book. So it's proven that he walks in the door. So there's a notary, a person that would have to sit there. Paul McCartney enters the building, wrote something on this one, royalties, and then they negotiate whether he wants. Most of the time, they were like, do you want anything? And you go, no, you keep it, do what you're going to do.
But that's music. Well, that's what it should be.
I have a friend a songwriter in America, and she says that the rule is, if you're in the room, you get a percentage of the song. So if there are 5 of us and 2 of us are writing it, we don't split it 50-50. The others were here, and their karma or whatever, their presence, their energy, their vibe, whatever you call it, influenced the song. So therefore, they get a percentage of it. We just split it equally. That's kind of mostly the American way. The English way is not the UK way.
And you got Beyonce with 36 writers on a song that's got 16 words. I mentioned it now twice. I had Wicked World here yesterday.
Oh yeah.
So I said it with them as well. We were chatting about it. So it's like
it's the weirdest thing in the world to me. I don't
yeah.
understand that.
I don't
30 songwriters. I mean,
yeah.
you gotta be kidding me.
It's like I think there were less actual words in the song.
Oh, yeah.
Than there were writers
Yeah.
or something. I mean, I might be wrong, but what was that
what
close?
on earth is going on there? I don't want to criticize an artist, but I mean, what did she do to Jolene? She just ruined that song. Like, did she not get it? Like, Jolene's supposed to be a sensitive song. It's supposed to be a tender moment where a woman is saying to another woman, "Please, I know you can do this, but please don't take him. I'm vulnerable." He clearly is like obsessed with you, but hopefully he loves me. But he's going to make a mistake if you lead him on. That's clearly what it's not hard. Dolly Parton's one of the greatest songwriters we've ever had, and she lays it on to the point that it's not impossible to miss this. That is what she's singing about, and that's what makes the song true and great. So Beyonce's now taking the song and saying like, Jolene, please don't take my man, because if you do, I'm going to come like and sort you out, and like you think you can do this, but you can't. It's more like a challenge, like try and take my man. I'm like, no, that's not. That's not
the heart behind the
I get
the music.
Beyonce's got that vibe to her, but if she's got that vibe to her, why didn't she just write a song that's got that vibe? Why take Jolene and do that to it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Like,
if you were to give a bit of advice, I always talk about Frikkie. He's my imaginary biggest fan of the podcast, right. And I always go, I was like, if Frikkie was to come and sit down with you and go, I want to be a musician and do this music thing, what's the advice you give to the new people?
That's a broad question, though.
It is, it's not intentionally broad, but
Frikkie. Let's say Frikkie's. Let's put a couple of parameters in. So Frikkie's a singer, a performer.
Sure.
Does he write his own songs? I imagine. Yeah, okay, so Frikkie wants to do that. I would say to Frikkie, you need to get yourself on the stage tomorrow. Like, you need to get out and play as many gigs as possible. Rehearse, write, sure, do all those things, but perform them for people. And perform covers and just get on the stage and perform more and more and more. If I think of the amount of rehearsal sessions I've sat in versus the amount of gigs, the gigs clearly make you more ready for anything.
Yeah.
For anything. And that's the best thing I could tell someone like Frikkie to do. Get on the stage sooner rather than later. I mentioned earlier that I got on stage with my boy.
Yeah.
And I watched him change on the stage. I watched him change. I saw something different in him.
Yeah.
Because the other kids are playing to backtracks and things like that. And fair enough, we all have to do that at some point. When you're doing award ceremonies or when you're performing at a corporate, you've got to use your tracks and that. But it's how you deliver. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I think having me playing the guitar and actually singing on the stage with him and we chose to move away from the backtrack at a certain point in the song to end it properly like a band and running through that sort of stuff with very minimal rehearsal, that was said to him at the sound check, going like, listen, I'm going to do this with the neck of my guitar and you're going to end. Remember that, okay? And then 10-year-olds looking at me going, holy crap, okay. But that's the biggest learning curve he could have experienced. And he remembered it and he did it, you know what I mean? So I would tell Frikkie, get on stage, play on stage, screw up on stage, get it right, get it wrong, get it right, get it wrong, keep on doing it. It's awesome. I shudder when I look back at footage of myself when I was a kid. Wow, it's awful. You thought you were a star. Eh?
My mom's got a videotape of me at a gig and I'm like, oh, please burn it.
Yeah, and they're super proud of it. Super proud.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I think to myself, like, why did they let me do it? You know what I mean? But that's the thing. You have to go and do it.
Yeah.
It's a great interview with Ed Sheeran where he shows it on, and at his height of his fame, he's on Jonathan Ross's show. And they say, and this is another thing I'll tell Frikkie, I'll borrow it from Ed, talent is not a thing. Talent is something that you hone. It's something that you work.
Yeah.
No one is born great at something. You have to work at it. So even like I listen to my daughter she's 6 now. She sings on key to anything you give her. If I change the note of something, she'll listen and she'll go, "Why'd you change?" And then she'll join you and sing on the new key. If I change the chords, she'll be like, "What's going?" And she'll change. So that's talent. I get that. Is it honed? No. Is it perfected? No. Is she going to stand on stage and get it right? Probably not the first time around. She'll have people in front of her and things like that. Yeah. So you have to work at it. So Ed Sheeran plays this clip of him singing, where they all think he's very talented, and he's awful.
Yeah.
He's like awful. And he admits it. He's like, you want to tell me that's not raw talent? There it is. There's no such thing. Everything takes work.
Yeah.
And even the raw talent takes work. They said they took 2 years to get Alicia Keys ready for the release of her first album, Songs in A Minor. 2 years before they showed her to the public.
Well, they say 10,000 hours. and then you're in the top 1%.
Yeah. How many years is 10,000 hours?
I don't know. Lots.
I've heard that phrase being said a lot, but some people do catch on quicker than.
Yeah,
than
look, I mean,
others,
there's those weird savant, guitarists or whatever else. Like, man, alive.
It's always the Asian dude on YouTube. That's what it is. Yeah.
My little brother was one of those guys on drums.
Oh, like, really?
My dad made this thing of we would always have musical instruments. And
changes something in your head. I recommend it.
Yeah, and so he'd buy guitars and he bought stuff, and then I remember he bought a drum kit, and he pulled in with all these boxes and whatever else, and made a deal at the music shop in Pietermaritzburg, and and we all had a shot. Everyone got a try, and my bud sat down, and my dad had been listening to some like blues that had a bit of a swingy kind of feel to it while he was building the drum kit.
Right.
And my bud sat down and into a swing beat. And off he went. And I'm like, we all looked at him and we're like, no, bro. And he was like, yeah, that's boring. And
that freaks me out.
Yeah. And then we started jamming. I had a mate of mine, and we started this band. We called it Epic.
Hang on, with respect to your brother, did he not play on boxes or anything like that before?
No,
nothing.
No.
See, my brother did something very similar, but him and I, as kids, he played on my grandmother's cake tins and boxes and stuff like that, and I played guitar with him. So he had figured certain things out, and he was like, that makes a ting-ting noise. Then he'd watch it on the TV and be like, oh, the ting-ting's that hi-hat thing or whatever. So when we went down to a music store one day, he wandered off.
Yeah.
And we heard this cool thing happening in the background. We're like, who's playing drums? Yeah. I was like, where's Gareth? And then we took a walk, and it was him playing. Yeah. And I said to him, like, how did you know that? He's like, well, but he had worked at it. He had adapted it from what he was kind of banging on to what he sees on the real drum set. Yeah. But your brother's a savant.
He didn't know. He, I mean, maybe savant is a bit too much, but one of the best drummers I've ever seen in my life. And he used to, you'd tap, but on his legs kind of thing. Like, that would be about it. Okay. Wasn't ever really interested in music. And my mates, David Phipson, I'm going back, Squonk and myself, that was his nickname, we had written this song, and we decided we were going to start a band, and, and then, I remember we wrote this stupid song, whatever, and then I'm like, we need a drummer, and the drum kit was set up in the music room, and we're like, wait, Greg plays drums. I ran to the house, hey, come and hit the drums for the song. And he came in, and cool, and we played it for him. He was like, okay, cool, and he just started playing, Yeah. And we had a couple of music guys, like session drummers, and my dad, as soon as my butt was playing, my dad was like, right, session drummer, you got to go for lessons. Session drummer was like, we're not touching the kid. Leave him alone. Just tell him to play. That's your advice. And that's what we did. We played in our garage, and we played every gig we could get our hands on.
Watch other people. Go see other people.
Yeah.
I get these messages a lot, will you come to our event, will you do whatever? And I would love to, but I can't. Often I can't do it. And I got a message today from Kat, who's putting on a showcase for younger students that she teaches vocal classes to as well. And she said, I know you're super busy and you probably don't want to come to these sort of things, but if you can, it would really help it out.
Yeah.
And that's not true. I had to explain to her, it's not. I remember watching. I remember being at gigs and being like, oh, who's opening for us? Who are we opening for? I would love to see this band and learn what's going on and figure it out. We didn't have. I sometimes think that the internet is more of a curse than it is a blessing.
Okay.
Things like learning a lyric or figuring out guitar parts and stuff like that. It's not hard. Someone tells me today, I can play Stairway to Heaven. Yeah, I can do whatever. I go, yeah, but did you learn it from a chord sheet? Did you go to Ultimate Guitar and buy the package, and then did they plot it out for you? Are you playing it in half the speed or a quarter speed, things like that? Because that shit, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that. If someone showed up at my house and played something that was slightly better sounding than the way I had kind of figured it out from listening to it from a cassette tape, which is also crap quality,
or whatever,
an LP, like a melted LP or like a warped one. Then I'd look at it and I go, where did you? And then they'd often it would usually be the same story. I saw so and so play it, and he did it this way.
That's how I learned. Yeah, my dad printed off the internet. Huge. There was a file that some guy had made with every single chord across the whole fretboard
with a photo of it.
With a little picture of it with where your fingers go.
I had a book like that.
It was a stack of paper this high, and he printed this damn thing off at work. And he came home, and this was I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months into me playing guitar, which was 4 months of D and A7th. Father Abraham had many sons, right? For 3 months on a 3/4 gut, nylon string guitar. And he dropped this thing in front of me. He said, there we go. There's every chord you can ever play on a guitar.
That's it, yeah.
You don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then I looked and I'm like, well, cool, and I mean, he played in church, so he had like a songbook from church, and I would look at that and go, what's a G? Okay, into my...
Go find it, yeah.
G. Oh, you can play it like this, you can play it like that, like that. And then my dad would be like, no, play the one there. Oh, okay. And then
you see the extra assistance is what we have.
Always, yeah.
Nobody has that now.
Yeah.
Everyone shows it. It's why
now
I
it's
think
YouTube. And it's like, how do you play this song? Watch Oak on YouTube.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's something missing there. Yeah.
Well, what's missing for me in the music world today is somewhat. People will say that it's a pot calling the kettle black, but I mean, it's new innovation. I think that's it. Now, I understand that most of what I do is seen as, or at least it's compared to the older days.
Sure.
It's not compared to anything new that's taken. It's not like, oh, this is profound. We've never heard anything like this before. They always say stuff like, oh, man, you're a Bon Jovi reincarnate. Yeah. You're Zeppelin, you're this. And that's very, very great because those were my heroes. And I'm happy to hear that because, and I talk about it in my shows, those are my influences growing up. And you can hear it when you listen to, you were talking about Dave Grohl. You can hear Grohl's influences. You can hear why he sings like that, why he does what he does. You can hear it in everyone, really. Clapton breaks down Layla and he says it's stolen, not even borrowed, stolen from 5 different songs to make this one song. And I laugh because it's like it's been going on since the beginning. You are your influences. That's what you are.
Absolutely.
But I do find that no one is trying anything else. No one's doing anything. They're just like, okay, this has been done. I'm going to do what that guy's doing. A trend shows up on TikTok, so everyone does that trend.
Yeah.
It's like, for goodness sake, man, can you find your own thing? Please find your own way in it. And we were joking about this is how I dress, this is what I look like, and I've looked this way for years, and I hopefully, God willing, I'll look this way for the rest of my life. But maybe grey and crumpled over a little bit. But so what,
Right. Yeah.
I'll settle for mildly handsome. It's all good by me. But the thing is, it's like I found what I am. And I found what I like.
Yeah.
And that's that. It's like AC/DC's new albums all sound like versions of Back in Black to me. Yes, there are different things being spoken about. But I mean, essentially, it's like, let's hit the road and party. That's kind of what AC/DC normally sings about, 10,000 volts striking you in the head, like that sort of thing. We were out on the road because that's what they do.
Yes.
They write what they know.
Yeah.
And that's what goes. And everyone wants to hear, they don't want to hear this next revolutionary AC/DC album. They want to hear this. They want to hear the pound. When we listen to Iron Maiden, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
They've found their way of doing it, and that's where it goes. And there are still some artists trying things slightly differently, like Ozzy is trying things differently. I mean, he's very ill. He looks
I think he's a bit worse for wear.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm surprised that he lived as long as he has. Ozzy's trying new things. He's trying things out. Paul McCartney, I didn't get, I didn't understand what he was trying to do in his last album. However, I will say he is still, he's an old man. He's 80 odd.
Yeah.
He's still writing things that were completely different to anyone else, whatever they're writing. And I was like, what the hell does this even mean,
Yeah.
And I can imagine at that moment when I was listening to it, I thought to myself, like, this must be what the people listening to the Beatles heard the first time. I imagine it was very split. It's like, you're either, I mean, I heard someone describe that the Beatles was like, it's like the world was in black and white. And when their music came out, it was suddenly in color. Yeah. Because they opened something up. Now, I got to tell you, I haven't felt that way. And it's not like I'm the biggest fan of this guy or anything, but I actually met him when he was a nobody in England. And it's Ed Sheeran.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now, I got to tell you, the way Ed writes is the way people of his generation speak and act.
Right.
So that's like, if you had to go back in time, and it's very hard to, this is what I try to tell a lot of musicians, that you got to put yourself in the shoes. So people say, like, Mark Haze, Haze, is based off of Purple Haze, Jimi Hendrix. Right. I was obsessed with Jimi Hendrix as a kid, and my dad gave me the nickname because we couldn't use my real surname because it was like no one's going to be able to pronounce that at gigs. It's just not going to work out. So they gave me the stage, and my dad gave me the stage name, and it's been my stage name ever since. Nice. So when you take that, a lot of people now, I mean, even then in the 90s, when I was early 2000s, when I was given the stage name, this nickname, which became a stage name, a lot of people then were also like, so what's the deal with Hendrix? I mean, Van Halen's really like much better, and and then Nickelback's kind of starting up, and then you got Linkin Park, and the new metal's coming through, and they're like, so what's so great about that? And I've always been very good at this and saying, like, okay, so learn the dates. Look at what's going on at that time. Put yourself in the shoes. So what's playing right now? Okay, so you got Jerry and the Pacemakers. You got like Clapton's showing up with Cream, or the Yardbirds at least, and that sort of thing. And so you're getting something like dynamic coming across. And then you get this guy who can actually make a guitar sustain. And to do that, he
Yes.
needs to put 3 amplifiers, double stack amplifiers behind him
Yeah.
to get that right. We now have distortion pedals and things like
Yes.
that. We did not have that then.
Yeah.
So all these things that he's creating, I said, no, go. So and friends of mine work at a music store, and then we would take the experiment further and be like, okay, so take this guitar clean
Yeah.
and plug it into that one amplifier over there, okay?
Yeah.
And let's just crank the valves until they start to glow. And this is, and they look at me, they go, but why? We've got a distortion pedal. And I go, but that's what Hendrix had to do.
Yeah.
So it's the innovation of it at that point in time. Now I don't see people innovating or trying.
There's
new
much
things.
less of it, I think, nowadays. There's 1 or 2 guys. Dan Podlansky does that feedback thing.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw it, I think it was at Kirsten
You
Bosch.
can't do that without amplifiers. You need an amplifier.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah,
And he finishes the song and he gets on the last note and he holds it and he holds it and he holds it.
the feedback
The
sustain.
feedback thing, yeah. And he puts his guitar down and he moves it in front of the amplifier and
and it
everything else.
starts to cycle
And
the feedback,
and he messes with the knobs and everything else. And he creates non-escalating feedback. Now, sound guy, nerd out, freak out, my dad and myself. The 2 of us losing our minds.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
And my dad had seen it somewhere before. He watched Dan, I think, play in Natal somewhere, and he had done it there. And I happened to have been in Joburg when that happened, and then I moved to Cape Town, and then he took me to the show, and he did it, and it was like, gosh, that was cool. It was weird. It was no one does it.
Nobody. He's not borrowed it, stolen it, whatever. But you've got Carlos Santana who used to do it. You've got I can see him in front of me, Gary Moore.
Yes,
who was, I mean, in Parisian Walkways, he's famous for holding that one note. Now I remember me and my band, we got to our first big break. We got to tour with Seether. So they came back down here from America after having a huge #1 hit with Fake It, and that album was really good. And they chose us to be one of the opening acts for them. So I cut my teeth on my first big stage in front of like more than 200 people. So now you're playing for 6,000-7,000 people, 10,000 at the Dome and stuff like that. With Sean Morgan personally taking me under his wing, going, "You will not use that piece of crap amplifier you brought here. You're going to use this." Scotty, may rest in peace, was his son. It was his guitar tech.
Yes.
And Scotty had worked for Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. He'd worked for Evanescence. He'd worked for so many people. So he was like well versed in how the big stage stuff works.
Yeah.
And a lot of us don't know how that works because we don't have big stages.
Yeah.
You're talking like, to compare, people got really cross when Guns N' Roses cancelled for My Coke Fest 2. Because the amount of people that came to My Coke Fest 2 was, I think, in the region of 6,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
and there are clubs in the States that are that big
play more than
that can play that. And we don't have that luxury here in terms of we don't learn that. So we've never really learned the big stages. Dan has been overseas.
Yes.
He has played that. He's worked with techs that understand that sort of thing. So what happened when Seether came down here is I'm playing through Sean's massive double stack triple Mesa Boogie triple rectifier, which is already like great. They've thrown away all my pedals except my tuning pedal and my wah, and I'm like, cool, that's great. I'm good, And Scotty sets up my tone. He goes and listens to our albums. I gave him CDs, listened to our albums, and learnt my style, my sound.
Yes.
And then when I walked into soundcheck, my guitar had been taken apart, put back together, reset, and redone.
Yes. Yeah.
No one in this country does that. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
And that's stock standard guitar tech, like 101, what you do in America.
Yeah.
So he showed us that. Also, what he did is, before I got there, he had my guitar and set up on he had a long 20-meter cable, and he had marked different X's on the stage. I'll never forget, the red ones were for me, the black ones were for Sean. The red ones were my feedback spots. And then he would, like, it was a red X with a red circle around it. That's screech feedback. And then the red X is the build feedback. And sometimes he would write like little notes before the gig. He would say, if you hold an A, you're going to get it there. So he would say to me, when you play this song, you're going to Time Bomb, for example, then when you hold your C minor, that's going to resonate over there, and you're going to be able to hold that feedback there. So that's what Dan is doing, essentially. It's a spot on every stage that has a feedback cycle. Yeah. And that's going away more and more because we're not using wedge monitors as much as I personally use any of the monitors now.
Yes.
So the feedback cycle is like almost.
Well, you have to have an amp, obviously, but I mean,
you don't have to.
I suppose you could do it with the main rig if you really.
You can work it with a wedge,
We've
got monitor rigs now that are massive. I mean, I can stand on them.
Fair.
So, and if I'm standing on it, it's strong.
Yeah.
So the speaker cab is about 16 inches. In there, so it's all right. It can be done. It's bigger than some amplifiers. To be honest. So it can be done.
You talk about like feedback spots and whatnot. I was chatting with a young sound guy the other day, and we were just talking about. I was listening to a mix, and we were chatting, and I'm like, "Tell me about your mic." Like he had a speech mic, and it wasn't set right, and I was just like, "Why you got it like that?" And he's like, well, I mean, it's just a speech mic, and we just, it's just there. And I was like, okay, hold on, bro. But like, have you? So for myself, every time I did sound for a band,
A speech mic as a singer, you mean?
no, just talking.
Oh,
So someone's just talking. It's just a microphone to talk with, right?
Okay.
So like an announcer mic.
I see. Okay.
And so like for myself, when I do sound and I set up a microphone, even for someone talking, never mind a band or anything like that, I will have a techie and go and walk on the stage. I find the feedback. I reference it first. I push it up.
Yeah.
Get it to feed. Find my frequencies. Knock all my frequencies. EQ, gain it. So there is no feedback.
Yeah.
Processing with a gate, a limiter, a compressor. That's my like function, right? On a just a normal. Hi, I'm Fred, and welcome to the show, Mark.
The
and I said like,
mic,
hey, bro, you need to be doing that.
Yeah.
And he was like, on the MC mic. And I'm like, yeah,
On any mic.
bro. How much work have you done with the kick drum? Well, no, not. I mean, we've got it set. And I'm like, well, do you? And like my first thing ever when a band, when I did sound and look, it's been years since I've done it, but the first guy I ever spoke to ever with a band asked the drummer, how do you want your kick drum to sound? Sound guys don't do it anymore because they all just crank the 4K and just let it go, and they're like, well, we get the snap, we don't overload the basement, and cool bananas, off we go, your brain will fill in the rest. Sure, yes, it will, but is that the sound the drummer wants?
I think
Guitarists, what do you want? You've.
But I think for years people have treated the fans as sheep.
Yeah.
And idiots.
Yeah.
We've done gigs and it's well because we had clubs to go and play in.
Yeah.
So alcohol was a factor. So
Fair.
people are drinking quite a lot,
Yeah,
and it's like, they're not going to care what it sounds like anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really the case. Now we're exposed. We're playing theaters most of the time.
Yeah.
We're playing arenas now,
Yeah.
So now it's a case of like, you better get it right. Well, we are at the point where we're ampless now and acoustic drumless. So we're using electronic stuff.
Yeah.
Straight in with the technology.
Yeah,
it's just
that's great.
that crazy right now. That we
narrow were the guys that pioneered it.
Very much, yeah.
They pioneered that whole sort
Absolutely.
of thing. I remember way back in the day we did Oktoberfest in Pietermaritzburg, where like it was a big beer fest thing. And
yes, I remember. Yeah.
We were doing sound,
okay,
and like my whole crew was there, and Squatter Camp played, and it was huge. And they pulled in with all of this processing, and and they're like, we don't need amps. Don't worry, just feed it into our in-ear monitoring system. Give us
makes
feed.
your job so much easier. It really does.
And we were the best sound guys in Maritzburg, and we was like, whoa, these are insane.
We still get that. Sound guys still look at us and they go like, really? What, like, you don't have to? And I go, that's fine.
Yeah.
And they say, what do I do? And I go, it's straight flat EQ.
Yes.
We set it up so that you don't have to do anything to it. That way it's much easier to like, how do you explain to someone like, this is what I want my amp to sound like? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they had a trigger pad kick. They just stuck it onto the kick drum.
That's it.
Trigger pad through a MIDI system, and they were just like, set it flat, set your gain to this, it will be fine.
Yeah. We're at the point now.
It was fine.
This is the most difficult thing I've ever had to do in my career in music, but it's like setting our own in-ear monitors in studio. So we are doing virtual sound checks. So we're trying to get it right. We're still busy building the system. It's not quite done yet, but it'll fly with us. It'll go wherever. And it means that no matter what happens, we hear what we want to hear no matter what.
Oh, nice.
Everything is mixed by us on our own. So everything goes through that system and then out to you. So the sound guy, you guys will do what you got to do for the front of house based on our tech writer, of course.
Yeah.
Of what we require and what we want it to sound like. And we give you reference material and all of that jazz. But our in-ears are ours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the surface, it's relatively simple. You split the signal, send one to the sound guy, send something into a digital system for you guys. Yeah. Preset it all. Yeah. And then pitch up, plug it in, switch it on.
In-ears are not as like glamorous as everyone says they are. There's a lot of heart missing from it, isn't it? A lot of openness goes away. So that's the difficulty we lie. And the system we're busy importing in right now gives us that room feel, like hearing. Yeah. It sounds so funny to say I need it to sound like hearing, because if you're listening to this and you have used in-ear monitors, it does not sound like what hearing sounds like. It's weird.
Yeah, I always used to set up like 2 or 3 condensers.
Yeah. What, for crowd sound?
Yeah, for crowd sound. Yeah. And it's like and I'd set them up sometimes one at the back of the stage.
Yes.
So that you're getting you can then as a muso, you can mix it in yourself and then get the feel, because if you play sterile,
it's hard.
It's very hard.
It's hard. It's hard to fake it, and many times, and I think to myself, like, it's why a lot of younger musicians can't hack it. They're not getting it right because they don't understand, like, where's the feel, where's the energy. Yeah. And I've learned how to take one in-ear out and talk to a crowd and wait for some sort of feedback and then put it back in and carry on, get the notes and stuff like that. But it's an ongoing struggle to get that right.
Alrighty, we need to wrap this up because we're hitting. This is the longest one I've done so far. It's fantastic.
I'd go on longer if you let
Yeah.
me. Shut up.
Can I ask you? I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
And I don't do questions normally, but I try to keep it conversational as we have,
Which we've done.
which you've done, which is great. And but I mentioned it to you before we started. The podcast called Grow a Pair.
Oh yeah.
I think you have grown a pair and done what you've done. Your sandwiches with sweet chili sauce and whatever else. It's a lot of sacrifice and a lot of sleeping in the back of a combi or whatever else that goes into being a muso.
Oh yeah.
What does growing a pair mean to you?
Every time I've thought about using that phrase "grow a pair," we've usually used it in a derogatory sense. But I mean, I think for me, it's stepping up. I think that's the right word. Stepping up in the sense of like taking on the challenge. That's really what it means. So yeah, I suppose it still makes sense when you're using it in a derogatory sense. Like, I'm afraid to do that. Like, well, grow a pair, dude, and get out there and do it. Mm-hmm. But grow a pair, stepping up and taking on like the responsibility of what it is you should be doing. And that could be anything, dude.
Yes,
I mean, that can be like, that can be in life. That could be just like, maybe you drive too fast and you're a bit of a reckless fool on the road. Maybe just take it easy. Maybe you should read your Bible a little more, like things like that. Like, grow a pair and like be a man, like stick it up, And it's so hard to say because that ties in, like, we're always talking about a pair of balls here. Grow a pair.
Well, I say I had a lady a while back treat me like, oh, it's a very chauvinistic thing. I'm like, no, you can just grow a pair of ovaries. I mean, it works for girls too. It's not grow a pair of balls. It's grow a pair.
That's true. Yeah.
That's why I used avos on the logo.
Oh, really? No, that's class. Yeah, I think growing a pair, like stepping up and being the hero. I think that's what you want to go for, but without the ego attached to it. I think that's
fantastic.
Yeah,
love it. Mark, thank you so much. This has been great.
We should do this again.
We will do it again. You were worried like what we're going to talk about, and I think if I had the capability, I think I'm reaching the limits on my recording PC now. I've never tested this far, but we're almost an hour and a half on the recording. It's insane. I love it.
Good to know.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and grow a pair.